Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Huddle Up and Wait on the Fins Talk Sports Network. Excuse me, had a little hiccup here. Dave, my friend, is with me, and we'll get started on the show in just a minute. But right now, we just want to let everybody know, we just want to send Damar Hamlin our best wishes, thoughts, and prayers. It's great that he is awake today, and he first thing he did was ask who won the game. And people said he won the game of life, which is an amazing answer. It's great that he's alert and was alert enough to ask about the game. That shows that he is present, like in the current state. So, great to see he actually has activities of the brain and his recovery is going well. So, even if we don't know if football is going to be in his future, it's just great to hear that he's awake. So, it's a great way to start the day. And I think honestly, even though we're Dolphins. Largely Dolphin, not just Dave. Show network. We can put the rivalries to the side, and we're all Bills fans for Damar Hamlin.
Well, I mean, the players say they're one big fraternity. Well, the fans, it's the same thing for the most part. All the fans usually get along, and there's a couple bad apples may ruin things, but for the most part, everyone came together and showed support for Damar Hamlin, and I'm so glad. It made my week reading that he woke up and he was able to have a conversation with the doctors. But we'll get into that more a little bit later. I just want to say our thoughts and prayers are still with you, Damar. And we just want you not even back for football, but we want you back for a long, healthy life. That's what you deserve.
At this point, like just being alive and having a normal life and having normal brain activity would just be a huge plus. Like playing football is like the last thing he should be worried about, just being able to live a normal, healthy life. And it's just a freak accident. Like that's something that like it has to have the perfect situation to happen, or everything has to happen at the right time. And it was just unfortunate. And one thing I want to do, because I saw a couple of people say this, I want to show a little support to T. Higgins. I'm not usually one to do this, but Bart Scott is an asshole for saying that T. Higgins should have lowered his shoulder. Are you serious? Like, it's football. T. Higgins was just playing football. In any other situation, it would have been like, hey, T. Higgins did his job. He wouldn't have been saying that, but he put his shoulder pad and the kid got hit in the chest. It happens. Like, it's just a freak accident. It was not T. Higgins' fault. So, as far as I'm concerned, T. Higgins, we all support you. You were playing football. Do not take it too hard on yourself, because reports are right now he's beside himself. So, and I can understand, like, he just feels bad, but it's not his fault.
And that's the thing is, even Josh Allen, it shows the character of Josh Allen. He came out before his press conference was done today, and he said, word for word, he said, T, don't you dare feel bad about yourself. He goes, that was a normal football play. He goes, I would have done the same thing to a defender. Right. I would have leaned into him trying to get the extra yard. There's nothing wrong with what you did. And the fact that Bart Scott came out and tried to make T. Higgins be the aggressor here and make him feel like being attacked like that, go away, man. Like, you don't.
How many dirty plays have we seen somebody like trying to injure? And like, that's a different story. Like, if you like stomped on them or something after their play and that happened, but it was just playing football. I'm sorry, we've seen a baseball coach get killed from a line drive in the head. This happened to a soccer
World Cup. World Cup happened with Christensen.
Yeah, so like this stuff, sports are inherently dangerous. That's like when I joined the Air Force, everybody said it was the height of the war going when we switched over to Afghanistan. And everybody's like, "Oh, you could die." Well, I could die driving my car to work. It's unfortunate, but like it's an inherent risk. So it's just football, man. It's just sports, and I'm not saying now that he's had that issue he should continue playing. That's up to him, but it's just inherent risks. So to blame someone for something like that is just asinine.
Agreed, 100%. No, I don't think Bart Scott belongs on a TV program anymore. I'm sick of him. Yeah, I'm sick of him. I'm so sick of this. Like, I just don't get. I'm sick of him. He always says the wildest stuff, and we just got an update on the Bills-Bengals game. We just got that as well.
The Ian Rappaport.
Yep, go ahead, brother.
All right, so what Ian Rappaport has posted, the AFC Championship game will be played at a neutral site if the participating teams played an equal number of games on both could have been the number one seed and hosted the game had all AFC clubs played all 17 regular season games. Those circumstances involve Buffalo or Cincinnati qualifying for the game as a road team and are listed below. Here's scenario one. Buffalo and Kansas City both win or both tie. A Buffalo versus Kansas City championship game will be at a neutral site.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo and Kansas City both lose and Baltimore wins or ties. A Buffalo versus Kansas City championship game will be at a neutral site. Now, folks, we'll share this on our accounts just so we have it. If Baltimore defeats Cincinnati in Week 18, it will have defeated Cincinnati, a divisional opponent, twice, but will not be able to host a playoff game because Cincinnati will have a higher winning percentage of a 16-game schedule than Baltimore on a 17-game schedule. If Baltimore defeats Cincinnati, and if those two clubs are scheduled to play a wild card game against one another, the site of that game will be determined by a coin toss. If Cincinnati wins the Week 18 game, or if Baltimore and Cincinnati are not scheduled to play one another in a wild card round, the game sites will be determined by the regular scheduling procedures. It's a lot to figure out, so it just seems like there's a lot that's going to happen here. Bobby, if you want to share that on the Fins Talk one or Twitter account, that's phew. It's a lot to figure out, but I mean, it's nice that the NFL worked instead of having to play that game and force them to play the game at this point because they've already moved on. I had saw like an AFC bye week and Cincinnati and the Bengals play, then an NFC bye week next week. It's not a bad option. Look, this is a situation we're not going to see probably ever again in our lifetime. So, like, the NFL is trying to adapt. We saw them move the Dolphins-Buccaneers game a couple years back because of the hurricane. They didn't have.
Look at COVID. Look at COVID. All the games they put around.
So like, it's just So honestly, silver lining of COVID is the NFL has gotten really good at emergency planning games. So they figured it out, and I feel like that's probably the fairest thing to do. But I will say it won't really matter because Buffalo fans do travel. So as far as that, well, so do Kansas City fans. So that's going to be interesting how that plays out. But I saw someone say that if the Bengals or Buffalo win a Super Bowl, it doesn't count because of the situation. No, it still counts because you still got to play in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. You can make every game neutral. It don't matter. Look at the playoffs in college. It's neutral sites anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Now, the per Pro Football Talk with Mike Florio, he had a source saying the NFL could have also leaned to putting in 8 seeds into a playoff bracket, which would basically give – but that still wouldn't solve the problem of the seeds 1, 2, and 3.
Right. It wouldn't solve the 1, 2, 3 seeds. It would solve the wild card seed. However, if they were 2 teams fighting for wild card spots, it might have knocked them both out of a wild card spot. So unfortunate, but at the same time, like you still got to win football games. It doesn't matter. Like just because you're the number 1 seed doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? We've seen a number 1 seed lose how many times now? So it doesn't matter. You still got to play football.
Yep. Oh, agreed. And you know what? This all goes back to, and everyone's like, I've seen people out there being rude to Damar and saying like, oh yeah, if this wouldn't have happened, we wouldn't have had this mess. And I'm like, wow, really? This guy's life was in the balance before we found out today of what progress he made. And basically all we knew is they flipped him on his stomach to get his lungs. That's all we knew. And people would just sit there and making those type of comments. And it just sickens me to hear people talk like that. But you know what? With the news we got, I know we're going to jump on it later, but yeah, the doctor said he's neurologically intact. I'm going to dive right into it since we're on it. Neurologically intact, meaning he's able to take commands from the doctor, do what he says to do. He can have a real conversation. He's still intubated, but that means he can write down what he wants to say and fully write in legible writing on paper. So that shows you where his motor skills are. And like Brett said, for the fact how long he was out with 8 minutes of oxygen to the brain, usually that's damage to your brain activity. And Damar is waking up like he just woke up from an hour nap. So,
so that shows that they're doing their job in the hospital too.
University of Cincinnati has a very credible record of doing incredible things like this. And this is another thing to add on the resume now, because I've read some of the stuff they've done in the past, and they're miracle workers there.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad they provided another miracle and gave this young man the possibility of a long, healthy life with the way he's going. I know his goal is probably to go play football again, but I just want him to live a long, healthy life at the minimum. That's what I want for him. So
usually at the cardiac arrest, they have to bring you back out slowly. They have to control regular.
Yeah.
There's a whole thread on Twitter a guy shared. They have to regulate your temperature. You have to regulate the blood flow, blood pressure, everything especially to the brain because of worried about brain damage and aneurysms and stuff. So they're like really focused on like fixing all that. So it's great that he woke up and knew the game. I just hope like it maintains, you know what I mean? That's going to be a big part of it too. So
yeah,
hopefully he has, and he was able to do it in writing, not talking. So hopefully he like maintains his motor skills and all that.
Yeah. No, and you know what? I mean, I think with how fast he's progressing, I know the doctors are going to want to keep him at a certain pace. Like you said, they're going to want to slowly bring him, but the progress he's making is really encouraging. I mean, that's just, I mean, it's just the fact that it's so encouraging. It really did make my week, Brett. Like I'm sitting there, I thought he was having a decent week, and I read that, and I'm like, because I was in tears on Monday night watching what was going on. I was watching the game live, and this happened. And I'm like, what is happening?
And the crazy thing is, I was asleep and I woke up and saw the game was 7-3, and I'm like, it canceled. I'm like, what's going on? Like, what happened?
Yeah,
like you don't ever see a game canceled. I was like, it must have been like some crazy weather or something out of nowhere, or I was thinking the absolute worst situation. Yeah. And then I saw immediately went to Twitter and I saw a tweet about it. I was like, holy shit, like he died. I was just shocked. I was like, man, because I'm waking up in the morning and starting my day like this, like holy hell, that actually happened. It was just insane.
I'm just glad he also gets to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
No, go ahead. Good.
I would say I'm glad Damar Hamlin gets to see all the people that came together for him and look at his fundraiser. It's at $7.5 million.
Yes.
And so
all started at like 12,500.
Yeah. So that's the thing. If he did this stuff before the NFL, when he was in college, before that, even like he was doing charity work like this. And for his fundraiser, people just jumped in and trying to make the cause because of how good of a person he was. All these things coming out of what he did off the field. And I'm just so glad he gets to see what the work he's put in for that pay off. And I know it's a coincidence of what happened for people to do that, but it's just the fact that he gets to now he gets to show like he made a change in the world for that with his fundraiser. And there's a lot of kids that get the benefit from it.
It's awesome. Like it's awesome to see that everybody stepped up like that. I thought that was amazing to see. So I was really excited to see that. I was like, man, like the fans found it and just went off on it. And it's a toy drive for kids, and
yeah,
it's great. And then the other thing is too, Fanatics, to shout them out. He's the highest selling jersey in all of sports right now. Damar Hamlin's jersey has been selling like crazy out of every sport. And 100% of the proceeds are going to his foundation. Fanatics isn't keeping a dime of it. They're sending all of it to the foundation, which is just amazing.
That's awesome.
So I read that today. That was just so cool.
But if we get any more updates on Damar, we will go through and we're going to go ahead and dive into if we get anything else while we're on the show, folks. But that covers it right now and where Damar is. And we're going to keep sending him our prayers and our thoughts, and everyone's coming together as an NFL league and fan bases, and it's amazing to see. So
check out the Huddle Up and Wait Twitter account for that information we read to you, so you can actually try to. It's a lot to process. I still haven't processed it, so you can physically lay eyes on it and see what Ian Rappaport shared.
I'm actually retweeting it off the show page right now for our Twitter account.
I just did.
Yep, so we're good to go. Bam, double whammy, so you got double the chances to see it, folks. But you know what? We got quite a bit of NFL news. Yes. I'm going to jump right into it. So I'm going to swan dive right in, starting with Saturday's game. Derrick Henry, Jeffrey Simmons is off the injury report for the big game against Jacksonville, the AFC South
and
division.
They need to win that one. Ooh.
This is for the division. All the marbles, and Jacksonville is coming in hot. So I mean, I still think Jacksonville takes it, but Derrick Henry and Jeffrey Simmons are pretty nice pieces to have, especially when you're trying to win the division.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to have like some core pieces back to play the big game, like especially possibly the last game of the year. So.
Yeah. Yes, and J.M. Santos said it. Walter Payton, Man of the Year. I completely agree. I know other players have put up stuff off the field that they deserve it too, but Damar and his fundraiser on what it's accomplished now with everyone coming together, I mean, I
mean,
wouldn't mind giving that to him at all.
without doing anything, he pulled it together. I mean, we don't have to make it, not to sound ignorant, but we don't have to make it a charity case. But I mean, he went up to $7.5 million, from 12,500 in 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah. So that's amazing. That's freaking awesome.
Yep, and I'm ecstatic for it. So thank you, J.M. Santos, for saying that. Moving on to other news, no practice for Lamar Jackson again. So Baltimore, like in some of the scenarios we just read off for that playoff strategy they were trying to do, if Baltimore beat Cincy, it had big implications. But if Tyler Huntley's good to go, I don't see that. If Lamar Jackson's not good to go, I don't see that happening with Tyler Huntley. Not with Cincinnati, the way they looked even before Damar got hurt, their offense was rolling.
Yeah, agreed.
And then Miami is starting Skylar Thompson, if I'm correct, right, Brett?
Yes, sir.
All right. The old Skylar Cannon is going to be playing against – who's Miami playing this week? I already know. I just want to hear you say it.
The SEC Casses. No, they're playing the Jets.
Oh, by the way, folks, Bobby, our producer, his son just announced he's going to be a Jets fan. So Bobby's in turmoil right now.
I will cancel the show.
He's telling us he's going to cancel the show, folks. So if we go black, there we go. Just to let you know.
We're going to go out mid-sentence like the
Yeah, sure. Why not? Jadeveon Clowney is done with Cleveland. He's not going to re-sign. He says he feels he's disrespected. If you had some more stats to your name, buddy, I'd say, okay, Jadeveon Clowney, when he's healthy, is a force, but it's like a 1% chance.
Yeah, but not even that, dude. It's not even that. Like Jadeveon Clowney, here's the thing. When Jadeveon Clowney doesn't put up the stats and sacks, he's a good run defender, but he wants to get paid like one of the best pass rushers. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland, I don't know. There might be an overhaul in Cleveland because of the scenario that's going on. Deshaun only got one win because Ron Rivera, some reason, wanted to start Carson Wentz. We'll get into that, but it's just the whole fact that Cleveland hasn't looked good since Deshaun got back. So,
yeah, and
Jim Harbaugh. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, kind of be expected. I don't see them firing Stefanski yet. We'll see.
Foreshadowing. I got a list later on in the show for Black Monday.
Yes, sir. We'll get into that as soon as we get around the league here.
Jim Harbaugh was expected to be the Michigan head coach in 2023, but not even 20 minutes after he said that, it says Michigan's being investigated by the NCAA for infractions on recruiting. Jim's probably going to rethink his decision. He's been in contact with Denver, Carolina, and Indianapolis so far. So he's a hot commodity, and the NFL owners can pay money.
Well, I mean, the NFL owner's already in his pocket now, but that NFL owner's already been investigated and lost the draft pick for tampering. Weird. Man, that investigations follow that guy all around. So you guys don't know, Stephen Ross is the biggest donator for the boosters in Michigan history. He's he's the richest person from Michigan.
Jim Harbaugh, the coach of Miami next year? What?
That's always tied. He was after that man love of trying to recruit him from Stanford years ago. Then Sperano was still in a contract. He's like, "Oh, sorry, Tony. Here's an extension." And then 3 games, 4 games, or whatever it was. I don't even remember. It was like 10 games a season. Like, all right, you're fired. Team's 0 whatever. I think they're 0-10. He fired or something.
I just saw my buddy Scott on the chat. Cincinnati did look good. Buffalo strong, especially we're all Buffalo strong. We're Hamlin strong right now, Scotty. So good to see you in the chat.
Cincinnati's a force. They're going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs. They're one of the last teams I want to see in the playoffs.
Dark horse in the AFC, just like last year. People counting them out.
Cincinnati would have won that game. I had them picked. I think they were going to win that game anyway.
All I'm saying is Cincinnati's defense is getting hot at the right time, and that's all that matters.
And Joe Burrow is so good with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all that. It's just
Tyler Boyd,
Joe Mixon.
Hayden Hurst is becoming a weapon now for Joe Burrow. I saw him in that first drive in that game against Buffalo, and he caught a pass where he turned around the seam, and I'm like, is that Mark Andrews? Who's that? I mean, I'm like, oh, snap.
Not bad for a guy our age. Wasn't he drafted like 26 years old?
Him and Stetson better the same age, and Stetson's still in college.
Oh, my God.
Okay, moving on. AJ Green considering retirement. Yes, that's a shot at my Georgia Bulldog friends because I live in Georgia, and I'm sick of hearing about them. Dolphins place Eric Fisher on injured reserve. They claim offensive tackle. Am I getting this right, Brett? Jaron Christian, or is it Garan? I don't know if it's French.
I don't know. I think it's Jaron. Yeah, Fisher didn't
Figured I
play
got
a
it right.
snap. He was brought in to kind of fill in for Armstead and the injury-prone offensive line we've had, and he was obviously injury-prone as well. But what do you expect for a guy that's been sitting on his couch for the last year?
Yep, agreed. Devontae Adams says he wants to stay in Las Vegas 2023 if even Derek Carr leaves Las Vegas. It's not if Devontae, it's when, because it's fractured. It's done.
I mean, he's kind of under contract and like guaranteed they can't even move him. I don't think so. Like, obviously,
no, it's yeah. I mean, if they trade him, they would have to eat a, I believe, $31 million dead hit already. But if they, on top of the trade, they'd have to eat another $13 million added on, equaling 44, 45 million. They're not trading Devontae.
No.
I had Bears fans, we're going to trade for Devontae. We're going to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. No, you're not, dude. They're like $20 million plus a year, and I don't care how much money the Bears have. You're not gonna pick up that type of contract and eat $40 million and tell the Raiders and say, "Oh, we're going to take all of it. Don't worry, guys." That's what kills teams, is deals like that.
I don't see it. We got a little bit of news here that our producer just dropped to us. Former Cleveland Browns running back Peyton Hillis is in critical condition after saving his children from drowning.
Holy crap, man. We just can't catch a break with this serious stuff going on.
He's only 36.
Peyton Hillis, please pull through, dude. You too. We're right there with you. NFL fan base is with you. Hey, that's a hero right there. Saved his kids from drowning. That's what dads do right there is save their kids. Doesn't matter what's in front of them, what they're doing, they're going for them.
Jeez, man. That's insane. I hope he pulls through that.
Yeah. Yeah, prayers to Peyton Hillis. Yeah. Please pull through. It worked for Damar Hamlin. Pull through on Peyton. Come on.
Yes.
So thank you for Bobby putting that up. I just saw that as you mentioned it in the private chat. So, man.
I just wanted to look into that a little more, and I saw that. I wanted to bring that up.
Brett's doing that. I'm going to move on to Sean McVay is rumored to be headed to TV broadcasting. Last year, he was rumored to possibly retire if Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, all those guys were either going to get surgery or be off or retire, something. So Sean McVay is now being rumored to go to broadcasting. Matthew Stafford is going to have multiple surgeries in the offseason, guys. His back, his elbow, he's dinged up pretty dang good, and he's been putting this off for a while. Brett and I talked about this in preseason. Sean McVay might look at this and go, I mean, Donald might retire this offseason. He just signed a new deal, but it's team-friendly. So if he retires, the Rams save money. And I just see Sean McVay going to that because he's got his ring. He can do the old Steve Mariucci thing. Coach for a little bit, got his ring. Mooch didn't, but still it's just the fact that McVay can go on to broadcasting. I mean, look at the other coaches that did it. You got Cowher who went there. And I mean, and he hasn't coached since. And he was a younger coach that stepped away.
Mm-hmm. It happens, like I can see him stepping away from the game.
Brian Billick, another one, young coach, stepped away, got his ring. He accomplished it. There it is.
It could happen. I don't know the will, but I could see it happening. But I don't know. He's still young, really young to be stepping away. But
I mean, it might be the Sean Payton thing. It might do the whole, hey, I'm going to step away for a year, reevaluate my options.
I mean, they went all in. I don't know what they expected because they went all in. Pretty much win last year, so they won. So now
it was a bad all-in.
What do you expect? Like you're going to have to rebuild this somehow, some way.
Yeah, it was a bad all-in. I'm still not a fan of it. What they did and let Von Miller walk, OBJ walk. I know he's still not playing, but I think OBJ might have put a little bit more effort in, especially if he's signed. Like that's just me. But moving on, Carson Wentz mentioned earlier in the broadcast, he's benched. Ironically, again, after throwing 3 interceptions for Sam, the Howitzer Howell, coming in for Washington Commanders. You know what? I'm rooting for the kid. I really want to see it. Plus, he's playing the Cowboys. So
I kind of want to see him do good because I liked him in college. I don't know whatever happened to him, honestly, but I actually root for him just because I want to see him do good.
I liked some of his tape on the UNC, but there was some things that worried me a little bit as watching his draft tape. I just feel that I want him to succeed. I do. I never want a player to just suck and whatever, unless you're the Packers and you're the next player and you go to the Bears, then you cross the line. But anyways, I just feel that the Commanders waited way too long to jump and go from Wentz to Heineke, and then they went back to Wentz when you have Howell waiting in the wings right there. I mean, why not give the kid a shot last week against Cleveland? Who knows?
What is he going to do? You know what I mean? How bad could he do over Carson Wentz?
Mm-hmm. And then another one, Cowboys cut James Washington, one of their kind of bigger prized offseason signings. He got hurt. I don't know if he didn't heal correctly, but if he is healthy, that could be a sneaky pickup for some team because he's a bigger receiver, but he's got some wheels, man.
Yeah, he's a solid receiver, but he's not really produced like I thought he would. I was actually a big fan of him coming out, but he's only 26 years old. I thought he was going to be better, and I thought when he went to Pittsburgh, it's like, oh, it's perfect. And just didn't really see him do anything.
Well, I'm sure some other team's going to give him a shot because, I mean, Kevin White he's still in the league. Kevin White's still in the league.
That's true.
I mean, you got Laquan Treadwell still bouncing off on teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure someone will pick him up. Somebody who needs a receiver depth be perfect. I mean, he reminded when he came out, it reminded me of Chris Chambers a lot. Same build and everything. So, I mean, I think
if he goes to the right system with a playoff team, and that's it. Watch, and I'm just saying this, but I hate saying this. Kansas City.
Yeah, well, actually, Kansas City,
James Washington and that speed.
Yeah,
I can see it. There you go.
I can definitely see it.
All right, main topics. Well, we did have Damar up around here, but we wanted to jump right into it.
Yeah,
and
started out positive, you know.
Of course. Now I was going to talk about the NFL might use 8 playoff seeds, but
don't have to now.
That Ian Rappaport just said, "Hurry up, up and wait, adjust." Audible.
I'm good with it.
Omaha. All right, so Brett's topic he wanted to jump into the Black Monday candidates of coaches. Oh my!
A list of coaches on the hot seat.
Folks, when I wanted to ask Brett what he wanted to talk about, he was like, I don't care. First of all, I'm like, Brett, what do you want to talk about? And he goes, oh, yeah, the Black Monday coaches candidates.
I said, I'm fine with whatever. Also, we got to talk about Black Monday because you got to think you can't go into week 18 and not think there's at least a couple more coaches on the hot seat. We already know the Colts job's open. So, you know, we already know there's a couple job openings already. We know the Panthers job's open. So it's just like, who else is on the hot seat? And
there's some more. I got
definitely some more.
I might not expect. Yeah.
So what jobs are open right now? We got the Panthers. We got the Colts.
So those obviously have been fired. A lot of people were coming out saying Josh McDaniels is going to be on the hot seat. I don't see it because that's a Patriots ex-GM, so he knows how McDaniels works. It takes longer than a year to install something, and McDaniels is going to get rid of Carr, get his guy in there, and hey, I'm not saying anything, but the old backup QB for Las Vegas looked good the other night.
Yeah, and let's be honest, the Raiders are probably the most cash-strapped team in the country or in the league. So for them to just fire an owner or a coach and not
an owner, I didn't know that.
But Mark Davis isn't just going to fire a coach and not have the coach there. He's going to give them time to figure some things out. So I don't see that happen at all.
Yeah, I just don't see it. That's why I crossed that name off my list.
They underperformed. I get it, but like they kind of overperformed last year. So I think I wouldn't, if I was the Raiders owner, I'd be patient on them.
Another one we talked about earlier that kind of made the questionable decision. He didn't know if his team was going to be eliminated in the playoffs or not. Yeah. Ron Rivera, listen, he is a player coach 100% through and through. He cares about all of his guys underneath him. But at the same time, how as a head coach do you not know the playoff scenarios?
Mm-hmm. Especially when it's been to the Super
Bowl. But they also have a giant mess outside of the football realm right now.
Yeah.
Look at their owners and Dan Schneider, their GM's trying to defend Schneider tooth and nail, and it's just this giant mess. And I think Ron Rivera, for him benching Heineke and not giving the shot to Heineke or Howell in that game against Cleveland to keep their playoff hopes alive, I'm thinking the GM might come out, and I think his name is Jason Allen, if I'm correct. I think that's it, but I have to go back and check. It's Jason something, I thought it was Jason Allen. But
I know they used to have Bruce Allen years ago.
Yeah, they used to have Bruce Allen, but they have a Jason. It's not clicking. I knew his last name.
Right now it's showing Martin Mayhew's their GM.
Martin May. Who was? Oh, their president, executive, and standing is
there you
one. Okay, sorry, Jason Wright. That's what it was.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jason Wright. Sorry, Martin Mayhew. So I think
because Jason Wright, he used to be a GM, I think.
So I think, if anything, Martin Mayhew having past blunders, I think he's going to be fired.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion, as a GM, I think Ron Rivera might be let go for that decision because your playoffs on the line. You're starting Carson Wentz, who did diddly squat in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
That's a joke. Another one I've got is, I might get some puzzled looks on this one, is Dennis Allen. The Saints way below their par for the talent I believe they have on their team.
Yeah.
I think a coach can come in there with the right philosophy, turn that ship around. You have plenty of young core there to build off of. And I think Dennis Allen is one of those guys who's a great defensive coordinator, can be a good defensive coordinator, but head coach, it's just, I don't see it.
Dennis Allen, I think, is a fantastic defensive coordinator. But if I'm going to be honest with everybody, I don't think that he's their problem right now. I'm
not saying he's the whole problem, but I'm saying he's kind of a bigger piece.
And he was not good in with the Raiders. No. But that Raiders situation was a huge mess, and he did kind of.
The Raiders are still a mess now,
right? So, they're one of the franchises that's hard to get to turn around. So I think Dennis Allen, I thought he was in a good spot. I still think the Saints were still a tough team to beat. They were still in the run for the division.
Yeah.
They were a team that you didn't just say, "Oh, they're struggling. They only got 2 wins this year. We'll beat them." No, they're a team.
You walked into Philly. Granted, it was Minshew, but it won.
Right, but every week I didn't just say, "Oh, Saints gonna lose that game." I actually had to pick. It didn't matter who the Saints were playing. I'm like, can the Saints win that one? I actually had to look at that game. So they're still a talented team, but after losing Sean Payton, I feel like they're in a transition. But the quarterback situation is really tough there, because they've had such a drop off, but they had the same offensive coordinator that's been there for years, although he wasn't the one calling plays. That was Sean Payton. But Carmichael had fill in.
Yeah.
He's the one that filled in for Sean Payton when he was suspended. So, and he did a pretty good job. So I think overall, at the end of the day, I don't know that Dennis Allen will be fired. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever.
Maybe demoted back to defensive coordinator, and then because he didn't mind that role. He really didn't.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that he gets fired, but I don't see him stepping down as a defensive coordinator. But I think he'll be a hot defensive coordinator name everywhere in the league.
Oh, yeah.
If he gets fired, I think he'd be one of the guys that teams that go after.
I just think he loves that defense way too much, and the guys in the locker room overall, even as a team. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't think he would take a firing. He would just say, "Hey, I'll step down as head coach, but still remain as defensive coordinator, and I'll work with whoever you bring in." And he's that type of guy. He's classy. He's not. He's not a mouthy guy or nothing like that.
No.
So
he's a hard-nosed guy. His defenses are really good. And I think that's his calling card. And I think at the end of the day, and I don't think there's anything ever wrong with it. If head coaching doesn't work out, but you're a heck of a coordinator, stick with being a coordinator, because I think at the end of the day, that's it.
Dick LeBeau all day long.
Yeah, I mean,
look, coordinator for decades.
Yeah, look at Wade Phillips. He's had a couple head coaching stints. He did pretty good for. He would have a good year or two with the Oilers and the Titans. Mm-hmm. I think he had a couple good runs with the Cowboys, and the rest fell apart. But
wasn't he with the Bills?
No, the Bills. That's what I'm thinking of. They lost to the Titans. That's right. Yeah, so
I'm pretty sure he was the head coach during the Music City Miracle.
Yep, that's what it was. That's where I was getting mixed up. But his dad was a coach of the Oilers. But he did really good for a couple of seasons with each team, and then kind of fell apart. However, he was a hot name for defensive coordinator. Look at Vic Fangio. Didn't do great with Denver, but Denver's kind of a mess. But he's a hot name for defensive coordinator. Although I do feel bad for him, because that's a tough situation to be in. That's what a lot of people don't understand, is sometimes it's not the coach, it's the situation. And the same situation isn't necessarily bad. It's tough, but it's not necessarily a bad organization either. It's just a tough situation he took over.
Now, there's a guy that I think we've been talking about recently, popped up in news across the Finns Talk Sports Network.
Over 1 million views. Holy hell. Thank you, everyone, for interacting with me.
By the way, Barstool, please get a accreditation to Finn's Talk Sports Network, which we're on right now. And we're not the ones who put that out. That'd be, I believe, our producer Bobby, who
And
helps connect that.
And that was Armando Salguero, who used to cover the Dolphins. That was his information, his article, and his thoughts. All we did was share it and tag him, and it took off.
Well, it's just the fact that I was telling our producer Bobby earlier is, hey, Barstool needs to show the credit, man. Like they do it for everyone else. All they got to do is just attach the network's name in there. But nonetheless, I do have an idea about McDaniel. I personally don't want to see him gone. He's done a lot of production here as a head coach and kind of building his philosophy and getting the ideology put in by all the players. You can see it's there. Now, I am going to say this, God, and especially being on a Dolphins Sports Talk network, I think they moved to it. I'm just saying. McDaniel's system works with a QB who can run out, who can work off the play action, and can be able to hit the throws that are not timing throws, that are not anticipation throws. 2 is the anticipation QB, where there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not McDaniel's system. He's done well in the system so far of the anticipation throws McDaniel's provided, but there's so much more to the Shanahan offense that Miami fans aren't seeing.
That's the thing. So McDaniel is what I'm not a proponent for firing McDaniel.
No, he's been only there 1 year.
The reason why I'm saying I don't hate the idea, for the longest time, the Dolphins have, since Ross has taken over, they fired GM, or they fired a coach, keep the GM. They fired Sperano, keep Ireland. Then they bring in Philbin. They forced Philbin on Ireland, or Ireland on Philbin, or whatever. Because Ireland didn't want Philbin at the time. Ross did. And then that didn't work out. Ireland gets fired. Philbin stays. Dennis Hickey comes in. That doesn't work. They move on. They bring in Adam Gase, and they promote from within the same person that Jeff Ireland promoted in Chris Greer. They promote him again to GM now. And then they bring in Tannenbaum as the VP, another Parcells guy. And then that doesn't work with Gase. And then a couple years later, they fire them. But they keep Greer. They keep the GM again. New head coach, and this time they fired a head coach, get another head coach. So they get the first head coach in a long time to have back-to-back winning seasons, even though no playoffs. They fire him, bring in another head coach. Now they're fighting for a chance at playoffs. At some point, you have to look and say talent acquisition has been a problem in Miami. The talent has always been subpar. It's never been good enough. Let's clear house, start over. That's where I say, like, do you limit your search for a GM by saying we're keeping McDaniel? Or do you fire McDaniel? It's a tough situation because I think there's a lot of GMs out there that would say, hey, actually, McDaniel is one of the guys I would actually go after for a head coach. So, yeah, I'll take that job. Or is there like, I want to bring my guy in, and does that open your pool up? So what I would do with the interview process is I'd keep everybody in play, and I would let it know I'm going to focus on the GM first, and then we'll focus on the rest. Bring the GM in. The GM says, hey, you know what? I want to bring in this, and this guy. This is who I want. Then you're like, you know what? I think that's a better idea. But I'm not for just firing McDaniel because the league has reported that there's so much $1 million out there for coaches that are sitting at home. So like, I understand like not wanting to just fire a guy at the 1 year. So if they're going to keep McDaniel, go get a guy that's familiar with the Shanahan system that has been with one of the trees, someone from Green Bay that's worked with LaFleur, someone in San Francisco, Adam Peters, the assistant GM, who's been with Shanahan for a while. So like find someone along that branch somewhere, someone in the Rams organization, like someone who comes from that branch that understands, oh, this is how they do things. This is what we're going to do. So that's kind of what I would lean towards if I were them, but we'll see what happens. But McDaniel being on the hot seat doesn't surprise me either after going 8-3 and then falling to 8-8 and staring at 8-9 in the face and possibly missing the playoffs. And don't give me the backup quarterback thing. San Fran's been winning. They lost Jimmy G against the Dolphins.
They're on third string.
Yeah.
Third string QB.
Yep. They got Brock Purdy's their third starting quarterback this year and haven't lost since he's been in either. So yeah, what do they won 11 straight? So it's like
9 straight.
9 straight. So I'm sorry, but I mean, like, it's not an excuse. The team's kind of like they play undisciplined. They just don't do very well. So at the same time, I mean, we've seen one and done coaches before. In Miami, we've had one in Cam Cameron. So it's like we've seen it. Like I get it. It sucks, but McDaniel will land on his feet. He'll do just fine. But I just said some teams are a bad situation. The Miami Dolphins are one of the bad situations to go to right now because that front office is a train wreck. And the guy that's a GM has been with the team since 1999. And we haven't won a playoff game in over 20 years. Just saying.
Kind of shows the trend. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you hear me say if McDaniel could be fired, it's not that I say he should be fired and he's terrible.
There's a chance of it happening, but we're not rooting for it.
I blame the front office, not him. It's just unfortunate situation. And I said before, this could be like a one and done for him, and Bobby did too, because it's such a shitty situation. And that's why Bobby, our producer, has even said he wanted a veteran head coach. And I've said before, I'd rather have a veteran head coach in this situation. So I wanted to clarify that we're not supporting fire McDaniel. It's just the context of it. And we'll never see a winner with Stephen Ross as Jenner.
Well, there's another 50 years, so Brett's going to be waiting a while.
Yeah, because his daughter's taking over.
But there's one more I do want to talk about.
Super Bowl. I won't even know what's going on.
I do have one more coaching candidate that is kind of obvious. There's been rumors about it for the past couple of weeks. Cliff Kingsbury, Arizona. Steve Keim, the GM, is taking away time for personal stuff off the field. I think he's going to get let go. I'm not saying he's had a bad run there, but just how everything's been handled with Kyler, DeAndre getting suspended and adding other stuff like Hollywood Brown, and he's not producing, and then Robbie Anderson, just stuff like this. These moves that you're trying to say, hey, we're going to add these, try to give him more weapons. Kyler can't stay healthy. He's more worried about his video game time. I mean,
yeah. So you want to know somebody I think that has saved their job is Todd Bowles by winning the division.
He was going to be my next guy brought up for that reason.
I think he saved his job by winning the division. And you know what? A lot of people say, yeah, well, it's a crappy division. But you know what? He won. And we would have flipped this if the Saints won the division and the Buccaneers lost the division. We'd be talking about Todd Bowles as a possible one and done. And Dennis Allen saving his job. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Or Steve Wilkes. The Panthers had a shot too.
You know what? I actually was going to bring up Steve Wilkes. I know we're talking about coaches possibly getting fired, but Steve Wilkes, in my opinion, has done a very commendable job with the Panthers. That right away they started looking respectable, and I really didn't think he got a fair shake with the Cardinals. And I think personally, Steve Wilkes is going to land on his feet. 100% will get a defensive coordinator job, hands down. But the man, I think, should be in consideration for a head coach job somewhere. I know Harbaugh and Peyton are going to be the big names, and I get it. But I think Steve Wilkes you would be stupid to not interview and take it seriously with Steve Wilkes, because I think he's done a great job with the Panthers considering the situation.
They have been scrappy. You've had them come out, and I mean, you had him come out, and DJ Moore has looked like the DJ Moore we remember from Maryland, and that dude's been everywhere. And this is with Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. I mean, these guys are very low end QBs. Smith and Eberflus, no, Eberflus ain't going anywhere. He's with Chicago for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think they're going to give him a chance. Although I don't think he's done all that great. Chicago's look pretty bad next year. If he doesn't turn it around, but I do think Todd Bowles, I think he's going to get another year. Unfortunately for him, they're kind of in a no man's land without Tom Brady.
Brady's going to be
talented roster. So they're going to have to find a quarterback and all, but they still have a talented roster to work
Derek Carr to Tampa Bay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you never know. Hey, that could save it. Yeah, but going 3-13 in your first season, that's a tough pill to swallow, though. Lovie Smith, I don't think is going anywhere. I don't think they're going to do 2 one-and-dones with that. Although Lovie Smith, the Texans were not a terrible team this year. They're scrappy. They're building. They're trying. And I don't
remember how bad the Bears were when he took them over. Remember how bad they were, and he turned them around, put in his defensive-minded game plan, run the ball, and it worked.
David Culley had Davis Mills playing well, and I don't think he was doing bad at all as a head coach.
They're going to get a new QB. That's my
but at the end of the day, I thought Lovie Smith did a pretty good job with this team, and they were a fighting team. To me, I think one of the most attractive jobs is probably the Colts, though. I mean, Panthers, maybe. They still have some pieces to work with. But I
would
don't
say
know.
QB. They need a GM to come in and be aggressive, trade up, go and get Young or Stroud. Or get Carr. Carr goes to Indy. Offensive line, you got some weapons in Pierce and Campbell. You got Jonathan Taylor.
Oh my God, that would actually be good.
It's not a bad fit. Derek Carr is not all right. I'm gonna say right now, Derek Carr is not in my opinion, a top 5 QB. He's on the verge there of being a top 10.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just some moments where you go back and watch, and there's comebacks, and you're like, oh my God, he's got it. But then there's some games you go back and watch, like he looks like Sam Darnold. What is going on? Right. So I just no offense to Sam, but it's who he is.
I think he's going to be. I still think teams are going to go after him because he had a down year this year.
Jets,
but he
Bucks, Indy.
Yeah, I mean, he had a bad year this year, flat out. Just no excuse for it. But before that, he's always been a respectable quarterback. So I don't know what happened. However, he hasn't always won the big games. But I mean, he did beat the Chargers last year. I mean, he did lead them back to win the Chargers last year. So that was a pretty big moment for them. But overall,
Brandon Staley gave that game away.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, at the same time, he did what he had to do. So he still did a good job. But Brandon Staley, another guy who saved his job. But I will say Stefanski, I think his job could be on the line, but I don't think
a playoff win. I don't think they're going to get rid of him this year.
Right. But I don't think it's this year. I think it's next year. If they don't show improvement, I think he could be looking at on the way out because he's 26 and 23 as a head coach.
So, if Stefanski comes out and has the Browns looking like Deshaun playing like post-massage table Deshaun and not pre-massage table Deshaun, then yes. And yes, I'm using that comparison because pre-massage table Deshaun,
dude,
he was out there
good.
balling in Houston.
But here's the thing. He went 11-5 his first year in a COVID year, but still was third day AFC North. Then he went 8-9, third day AFC North, no playoffs. And now it's 7-9, no playoffs.
Remember, he had Jacoby Brissett for about 3/4 of the year.
Right. So, next year is going to have to be a different year for them. He's going to have to have a 100%. Winning year. And if not, he's out. So,
I think so. And I'm just going to end on this. Black Monday could also be some Black Monday for players. Just maybe if they get released or something, if a team has to save money by a certain day for guaranteed money, just keep your eye on Derek Carr. Right. I'm not hating on Dolphins fans, but Tua, former Dolphin Ryan Tannehill, he might be out of Tennessee because he hasn't looked good. Kyler Murray for Arizona. Geno Smith, not saying he's going to be a cut candidate, more of a trade candidate because another team might want to sign him or as a free agent or trade for him. Jameis Winston, I think he's done in New Orleans. That's been a shit show.
Jameis Winston, I think I had hopes for him in New Orleans. I was like, this is where he can turn his career around. It's just too little, too late, I guess. But
it just is what it is. He's had injuries and it's adding up.
And you know what? Shout out to Pete Carroll. How everybody said that. Oh man, Seattle's gonna be nothing without Russell Wilson. Who's throwing DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett the ball? Seattle's got Geno Smith.
Geno's played well this season. I'm not knocking that at all.
Geno Smith has played a phenomenal season.
Teams are going to want him, is what I'm saying. Yeah,
right. And let's look. I'm not comparing it to the level, but it kind of reminds you of Randall Cunningham back with the Vikings, resurrecting his career because he had that down years, and all of a sudden he comes back. But our producer, go back to a conversation from earlier, real quick. The Bengals will be recognized as AFC North champions regardless of the outcome of Sunday's game, per a league source. A coin flip could end up deciding home field in a playoff rematch with the Ravens, but Cincinnati has the higher winning percentage and has won the title.
Tom Pelissero just put out a new thing, as you were saying that, right at 9:58. The coin toss would only take place in the event the Ravens are the 6th seed in the AFC and have a wild card matchup with the Bengals. If Baltimore moves up to the 5 seed, setting them a matchup with the AFC South winner, no coin toss necessary.
Does that mean the Bengals win and they could have the number 1 seed?
No, they're basically saying Kansas City and Buffalo are the ones that are going to be up for grabs for that.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of crap because I know what happened with Damar, but I'm just saying I feel like Cincinnati should be.
Yeah. I mean, win percent kind of sucks there because, if they win 12 games, they go 12-4.
Mm-hmm.
back to the 16-game schedule. Win percent kind of sucks, and it kind of sucks for the other teams that played 17 games because win percent kind of, I mean, it is what it is. Like, I'm not complaining or anything, but like it does kind of suck because it's like, well, you had higher win percent, but at the end of the day, you still got to take care of business. So it happens.
Yeah, and sorry for the update back and forth, folks, but it's literally coming out as we're live right now. So.
And this is unprecedented. So quick story before we wrap up. I had when I was in college taking sports management classes, we were literally talking about how they manage lightning within 5 and all the lightning delays and stuff. We literally discussed it in class. And guess what happened that night? I believe it was the Packers game in Denver. This is back in like 2018, 17. They had that long 2.5 hour lightning delay or whatever it was. You remember that?
Yeah.
And it was crazy because we watched it live. And then we were talking about how the Georgia, because of a tornado, when Georgia, they had the SEC championship in that basketball tournament, how they had to move, and Georgia like overcame all of it and won, and the city was like destroyed in Atlanta, and it was just like an amazing moment. Well, it was that same time we would discuss that moving games, and they moved a game, the Dolphins game, because of the hurricane. They had moved it to the middle of the season, and neither team had a bye week, and they were discussing moving it to Philly or somewhere that was like more of a neutral field that was away from the hurricane, and that team was away for that game. And they just made the most sense to move it to the middle of the season when both teams luckily shared the same bye week, and the team just didn't get a bye week, which stuck for both teams, but it is what it is. While I'm telling you this is like unprecedented time. This is crazy. When you can complain about what the NFL is doing, but just in that class alone, and that teacher was an athletic director, so he understood like how things like maneuvered. Things change, and you had to be able to adapt and overcome and to drop the hat, just kind of like how we did on the show at a small scale. Like those guys are like adapting and overcoming it, and those conversations that happened at that game really never stopped. They stopped enough to sleep and eat and then get back to it. Like those conversations have been going on for days on top of all the other shit that they're worried about. So, you know, the guy behind the scenes, you don't see all the logistics that go into this, figuring this stuff out. And they went into the logistics to see if it made sense. And I do have to shout out the NFL for not trying to force this game to happen again and make it work with the situation and try to force it for money. Like the only reason we would force this game is money. Cause I mean, look, they found a way around it. So, you know, shout out to the people who actually like made this happen and found a way around it. And you know what? Well, yeah, some people might put an asterisk on this, but it is what it is, you know, and the Bills still have to play the season with a heavy heart and everything that was on their head. So I'm sorry. It's tough. It's going to be tough for them. It's going to be tough for everybody, but you overcome. And honestly, anybody who wants to sit there and use that against the Bills and Bengals, that it's just childish. It's just stupid and heartless because like that kid, like literally almost died. Like at the end of the day, he still has his life. So we should just be like looking at it like, you know, it's bigger than football.
Agreed.
If the Bills don't win a Super Bowl or a team loses out a Super Bowl, hey, you know, we still have our health. That's all that matters. Sounds stupid, sounds corny, but it's the reality.
I think I hope they do this, but I hope every team in the NFL for the rest of the season puts a number 3 on their helmet. Honoring Damar. I don't care what team you are, throw a blue and red 3, half blue, half red. Honor the Bills, Damar Hamlin, and just know that we're still behind him.
Yeah, I think they should put a 3. I think on the Super Bowl, no matter who's in, I think they should put a 3 somewhere on the field, a blue one with his number in it. I think that'd be cool. Or in the end zone somewhere, you know. And then I would say, like, for every point scored or something, we donate to somebody donates to his charity. That'd be cool. So
yeah. Nope, right. I definitely agree.
A lot to talk about, a lot going on, a lot on the line this weekend, man. So a lot of implications coming. There's going to be some teams getting their hearts broken, but you know, it's a lot to wrap our heads around. So real quick, who's your big winner for this week, or who's your upset of this week?
Upset?
Yeah, you got any upsets?
Not really. You know what? I'm going to come out and say it just because my dad might be watching and he's a Cowboys fan. Sam Howell comes out and beats the Dallas Cowboys this Sunday.
You
The
did.
Cowboys fans would literally go into hiding. It doesn't even matter for the rest. If you let a rookie QB in the final week of the season, when you're trying to get the number 2 or number 1 seed to come out and lose, that's my biggest upset. But my lock of the week, I'm slamming it. Even though I love Dan Campbell, the Packers are beating the Lions, getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's actually my game of the week because one of my favorite things is when playoffs on the line for both teams. I love that. Yeah, I love the Packers, Lions, and a division rival for that last playoff spot. I love that. That's my
Detroit might even be kicked out even before they kick off because Seattle wins.
Seattle. Yeah,
and then all the Detroit fans, it's not fair. We shouldn't have been flexed. I'm like, then y'all shouldn't have lost to Carolina last week, letting up 300 yards on the ground to Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Foreman. But now you're here. So,
but I'm calling it now. I'm calling it right now. Jacksonville beats the Titans.
All day long. That's my second lock. Lock it up.
Jacksonville's beating the Titans and win the division. That's going to be my probably my lock. I don't know if it's going to be my survivor pick. I haven't felt that confident yet, but we're going to talk about the Colts Texans.
Trevor Lawrence going to come out and say it. I love Justin Fields, what he's done for Chicago, but Trevor Lawrence, I had his 1A, 1B back and forth with Justin Fields. I'll put him back as 1A. I'm sorry, Trevor Lawrence is starting to look like that Clemson kid we saw.
I'm going to throw a team out there that very well could sneak in the playoffs in the AFC if two teams lose. And I think it could happen because the pissed off Bills are going to beat the Patriots, I think, or a motivated Bills are going to beat the Patriots. And I think the Dolphins could get upset by the Jets. And I think the Steelers are going to win. And I think the Steelers are going to beat the Browns. And they could
be such a Mike Tomlin thing. It would be such a Mike Tomlin
thing. No one's talking about the Steelers all year, and here the Steelers are making the playoffs. I can see it now, and I think there's a really good shot, and I'm going to keep an eye on that. But I think the Steelers do beat the Browns and take care of what they need to take care of, and I think they have a good chance in the playoffs.
JM Santos, yes. If the Jags get in the playoffs from the turnaround they had from the shit show Urban Meyer, who comes out just hitting on women and photos captured of him cheating on his wife. Yes, I'm going to say Urban Meyer because you're a piece of crap. Anyways, Doug Peterson, dude, everyone ragged on him saying he can't do this, he can't do that. Philly kicked him out of town, and that guy literally put in Jalen Hurts for Carson Wentz, who was the future of the franchise because he benched Carson, and he literally helped lose a game to make the Giants have a worse draft spot and the Eagles have a better draft spot that year. People still don't realize that, and look what he's doing in Jacksonville. Yeah. He has Trevor Lawrence looking like he had when he played with Dabo Swinney.
And they went and hired a guy. They went and hired a guy off of the same tree anyway.
Yeah.
It was just they hired a guy from the same thing at the same field as Frank Reich. I mean, Frank Reich came from the same it was the same coaching staff that was there anyway.
I just don't like the fact that it shows how bad the culture was with Urban Meyer. He literally had players come out and said, he kicked me in practice.
Yeah.
That was Josh Lambo, the kicker, that came out and
he was a dick. He was just like, he's not a good dude.
And then ESPN Game Day comes out and hires him for college football analysis. Good job, ESPN Game Day.
Because it's about money, about this. But, it's just the way it is, man. But, I mean, Doug Peterson has done a great job in Jacksonville. He's done a phenomenal job. I think he's cementing himself as a legit coach and a reason that the Eagles won. And I just want to throw this out there. I also think Frank Reich is probably going to be one of the better names out there in the coaching hires.
Even if he does, he's going to be an amazing OC hire.
Yeah.
If not.
And I think, honestly, if you look at Frank Reich right now, I don't think he was a problem with the Colts too much. At the end of the day, I think what just hurt them, losing Eberflus obviously hurt their defense, but just losing their quarterback and not having, I think losing Andrew Luck just set that team in a spiral. And then never found
Rivers would have stayed. It honestly would have been okay. He was actually still playing decent, not great, but Rivers got him to the playoffs.
Yeah. Yep. And Matt Ryan was just too far gone.
No, Matty, I smelled it a long time ago.
And then whoever's idea was to get Carson Wentz, it was just dumb. That was just bad.
Hold on. By the way, Matt Ryan, let's give his career in Atlanta some respect, though. I'll give it that. This dude put up some numbers in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel so bad that, he has to be a part of the worst comeback and failure in Atlanta in the Super Bowl. And now the biggest comeback of the Colts in regular season history. Like,
and he was, you know, what's funny is he was a part of the reason that they had that comeback, because he did turn the ball over and stall some drives. But at the end of the day, he did put up a phenomenal career with the Falcons. And yeah, he never won a Super Bowl, but you know, he was a big reason they led them there. And
yeah,
it just sucks to see his career end the way it's ended. I thought we talked about it. We thought if Matt Ryan can kind of, you know, play at the level we think he can, you know, he'd be good, but he's just pretty much done. It's pretty much near the end of his career.
Also in the college world, one more thing, folks, please don't bet on TCU. Just if even 13 points is not enough, don't take it. I don't care if you're a Horned Frog fan. Don't do it.
No.
Georgia, listen, Kirby Smart almost got beat by Ohio State. He got tricked. That doesn't happen twice in a row. Kirby Smart's a hell of a coach.
Not only that,
him getting tricked doesn't happen twice.
TCU is not talented like Ohio State. Ohio State has more talent than Michigan.
By far.
Ignore that. Ohio State got
I'm sorry.
out-coached.
Whoa. Michigan had, listen, I'm not a Michigan guy, but that was a Cinderella type win with TCU doing that to Michigan. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah. And Michigan isn't as talented as Ohio State. Ohio State should not have got beat up like they did against Michigan. They got flat out coached, out prepared. Like Harbaugh pretty much just made Ryan Day his all game long, and he just bullied him around. And Harbaugh didn't do anything different than what Jim Harbaugh does, and it's smash mouth football. And Ryan Day just had no answer for it, and he kind of played scared. And then he gets against Georgia, and Ryan Day is like balls to the wall. If he coached like that against Michigan, he wins. So Ohio State just has more talent. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Michigan isn't a good team, but Michigan, like Ohio or Georgia, I don't know what they were doing, but they could have walked that game a little bit more than they did, and they did come back to win. They got lucky the kicker missed, but I mean,
yeah, big time.
Georgia is a very talented football team. They're so fast. They're Alabama, what Alabama was just a couple years ago, so they're going to be hard to beat.
I think.
But on that note, we had some hell of playoff games.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. They were great. They came down to the final seconds. But at the same time, sorry to bring up that loss for Ohio State, Brett. I wasn't trying to rub it in because I'm not a Georgia fan.
No. That's fine.
Hey,
I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm used to losing. At least Ohio State makes the postseason.
God dang. But no, folks, hey, we should have done this earlier, plug it in, but
subscribe.
Please go like and subscribe the network, the show. Please go get those notifications put in. Give the ratings. Give us that good old rating. I know Brett and I can be kind of annoying, but you're still here.
Hey, I'm sorry, guys. I've been on a hiatus for a little bit, so we lost our flow a little bit. Personal things happen in life. I discussed it a little bit last week or last night. So I'm back. I'm getting back in my normal self again. I'm feeling pretty good. Dave's excited to have me back, pestering him again. So we're good. We're ready to keep this going, and we're going to be talking this stuff during the playoffs. And I don't know about Dave. We'll discuss about doing a show after Monday. We'll see what happens after some situations happen after the Sunday. So it's going to be interesting around the league. I'm always excited after the Monday after the final week. There's always stuff to talk about.
Remember, folks, in Lambeau Field, kitties get cold outside.
On that note, guys, I'm Brett Legassi. He's Dave Steger. Until next time.